Have you ever felt like the more you try to get your life together, the more out of whack it is? In this episode, we bring on Elsa, who talks about what it means to live well, wealthy, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. Check it out. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Kneeling on Business, the podcast. As always, it's your girl, Bianca. Today, I am here with a wonderful human being, somebody that I personally have looked up to for so long. Miss Elsa, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm here, girl. I am here, girl. I am so happy that you're joining us today. I'm happy that you said yes. I'm happy that you said yes to God, you said yes to me, and just gracing us with your presence today. So you guys know how I do on this podcast. In true fashion, I don't like to brag on my guests because God has given them the confidence to do it themselves. Sure. So, Miss Elsa... So, Miss Elsa, let us know about you. Brag on yourself. What are you? Who are you? What's going on in life? Tell us a little bit about you.
Wow. Okay.
I know.
So, fun fact. I was like, okay, I got back on look what you have for me because I'm just going to go off the dome. But dang, I didn't know you were going to ask me to do an intro. Crazy. Who am I? That's such a convoluted question. Well, Elsa, I am a lover of God. Like I really am. I'm a people person. Like I love people. By trade, I'm a mental health therapist as well. So mental health is really important to me. I love like not just people like getting to know them, but I love learning about people, why they are the way they are. I love learning about trauma, even though that sounds kind of bad. And I love all things like holistic health, right?
Yes.
So like not just one area of your world, right? But like, what does it mean for you to be well in every aspect, right? Like, I often say like, we're seeking balance all the time. And like one area of your life is going great. Your friendships look great, right? But your mom misses you, right? Or your mom misses you and your friends are there, right? But your money's funny too. So it's like always trying to get something in order. So I'm really passionate about that too. And I'm just like a person who like loves adventure, right? And loves finding things that are exciting in life. So like whether it's thrifting, whether it's finding free events to go to, whether it's just like doing something that's out of the box and just like finding joy in it.
Yeah.
That's good.
I love that. And I know I said I wasn't going to brag on my guests. Y'all know I don't like to brag on my guests, but I will say, one thing I want to say about Elsa is Elsa has been somebody that I've looked up to for a while. And she has helped me through a really hard season. And so I'm just so happy that she's here, y'all. So if you guys can just bear with us, because I'm really, really, really excited that she is on this podcast and she is telling us about all things wealthy living, which we'll get into later on. But guys, she really is. She's been monumental in my journey just with God. So I just want to say thank you. And I love you. And I'm just so happy you're here. But anyway, I just had to get that out there. But you kind of touched on it a little bit. I want to know if you had 3 words to describe you. 3 words, just 3 words. What would they be and why?
I would say I'm leaning towards like curious and inquisitive, but I think I'm gonna say curious. Like I'm always asking why. I'm always seeking to understand. And with that, like I'm a learner, right? So curious in that aspect. I would say I would say a light. People often describe me as that. And I always say that like, okay, like I hear that, when people say something enough about you so many times and you don't believe it, you have to go with what everyone else is saying, right? Like particularly if they're people who value and think highly of you. So I would say that. And I say that because there's been so many times where I felt like darkness, right? And so people are calling you the light, but you feel like the exact opposite. So I would say that about myself. So inquisitive, what did I say? Curious, light, and a caregiver. Like yes. I always fall into the role of helping somebody, listening to somebody, moving somebody along. If I see a child, they're my child now for the day. Like that's just how I've been set up, whether you are 85 or whether you are 8 months, right? That's just how I'm wired to care, to step in and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I believe it. You are a light.
Yeah.
You are a light. I mean, you guys weren't there. Some of y'all were there, but your birthday showed it. Okay. Like, had a really good big birthday where everybody just gave you accolades because it was due. Like, you do so much for so many people. And I feel like those who do so much for so many people are probably the hardest people to receive that type of recognition. And girl, this is your season. Amen. Give you your flowers while you're still here. Okay.
I receive.
Yes, give you your flowers while you're still here. But you touched on something about mental health, and baby, I'm just now getting into it. Because mental health is actually something that a lot of people shy away from. And you also said something about seeking trauma. What led you to just discovering mental health and specifically trauma? Like, what interests you about learning about trauma?
Well, I've always been interested in like psychology, right? Okay. Like even when I was in like a high school, it was actually this class I did the worst. And I should quit. But I was so fascinated by it. And so that's what I did in undergrad, just like learning how people think. Trauma really came from me because I've always also been fascinated by like nature versus nurture. Nature versus nurture in the aspect of like what leads to our outcomes. Is it like who you were from birth, or is it where you were raised, like what the factors in it, right? And a lot of times it's actually both, right? So it is like who you're hardwired, because you know you can have this two different children, right, raised the same way, end up completely different, right? So that's part of it too, but also the environment you're in like does affect you, right? So things like ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, that impacts you, right? If you've been in a household that's abusive, like if you've been abandoned, whether it's like being left in the park, like that stuff adds up, right? And so I think that in the nature of like just our walks through life, particularly even as a follower, but just as a human, you cannot go through this life. Like the second you come out of your mother's womb, something has hit you, and trauma is impact, right? If you think about it. So the second you step out into the world, something has impacted you. So we've all experienced some form of trauma. And the idea behind that, my passion behind that is understanding one, how it affects us, but then also how we can like move away from it towards healing, right? Because you can't always just be like, okay, forget about it, because that's also like not good to just erase it. But there has to be a way that I can take my trauma but not let it bury me in what I've been through. So
that is wow.
Yeah.
And not let it burn you. Can healing be traumatic too?
Oh, healing's very traumatic. Okay. Right? Like, I mean, you think about like a doctor like literally operating on you. Like that's still a cut. Yeah. That's still gonna leave a scar, right? But it's for your good. Yeah. Right. And so everything that we go through, even like when you think about God, like the seasons that he puts you in when you're suffering, when you're hurting, right? Like it hurts. It's traumatic, right? But like if you believe his word is for your good. Yeah. Right. So
Okay. She said she was a mental health therapist, y'all. So bear with me because I'm going to get some type of healing today too. As always, when it comes to talking with Elsa. But that's really good, sis. That's really good. You did have a project that you started in 2020. If you could tell us a little bit about the Wealthy Living Project, just tell us where it originated from, how it began. Well, that's the origination, how it began, and just like the impact that it's had on your life and others.
I think I actually had the idea like in 2018 probably. And y'all know how it goes. I'll be telling you a word and you be like, whatever, that's what I'm doing. And so in 2019, I was like, okay, God. Okay. All right. So I was like, boom, 20. And y'all know how 2020 went. So let's just preface that. But I was like, okay, no, God. Like, so I think I remember like January 1st, I was like, I had gone out and did all the stuff for New Year's and stuff. And the next day I was like, okay, God. All right, fine. I'll make the post. So I did all that stuff and like launched it literally, I think on like January 1st, 2020. Yeah. And so the Wealthy Living Project is the idea of like the idea that my idea behind that is that our wellness, like we should all be seeking wellness, right? The idea is like, it's spelled the Wealthy Living Project, wealthy meaning like WELLTHY. So not like money wealth, but wellness, right? And the idea behind that is like our wellness is our currency, right? Like it is the currency you need to go about and thrive in this world. So to me, wellness looks like the balance between your mental health, your physical health, and your spiritual maturity with God, right? And so like I was saying to you before, like that sounds really cute. It's like a cute little triangle and stuff like that, but it's actually really hard to achieve, right? Yeah. So I really wanted the place, Instagram page, right? But the platform, because I want it to grow to be about like the journey to wellness, right? All of its like crooks and crannies, all of the highs and lows of it too. And it was really birthed out of just the idea that like I even struggle with my mental health, right? And we often hear like, oh, like just pray about it, right? Or like, oh, like don't you believe in God? Doesn't he like heal you from stuff like depression and anxiety, right? Or like, oh, well, like if you don't know God, like, or just thinking that like health is separate. Like I need to focus only on my physical health and I'll be good, right? Or I need to focus on only my mental health and I'll be good. Or only my spiritual health and I'll be good. It's like, no, we actually need all three, right? We can't focus on everything all at once because we're not superheroes, right? But at the same time, like true wellness is pouring into all of those wells in your life in order for them to be filled, you know? So that's where it kind of started from, because I really want it to be the authentic journey to wellness. Like, I think we like, oh my gosh, this person's great. And then you find out they're depressed and you're like, oh, okay, well, you should have told me that because I thought I was doing it wrong. And it's like, no, like health looks like the highs and lows. Like depression looks like, oh, I was good and I wasn't, right? And then I found a way to be good again, right? Like the fitness journey looks like, dang, my abs is here and now they're gone. What? I don't know what happened, right? So it's all of the above. Even walking with God, it looks like, it doesn't always look like a straight line. It looks like I don't even know how to talk to God anymore. And then it looks like, oh my gosh, we're best friends again. And it looks like we're coworkers. Like it's a journey, right? It's always a journey. And so like, I just want to have a space where we can like share about that. So it's not just me, right? But it's like whether it's my writing or someone sharing or just connecting with my own journey to wellness, its highs and lows, and then being able to see themselves in that.
Yeah. And one thing I love about your page specifically is that it does not mirror culture. Culture will only give you the 90-second highlight reel. Your page, you have cried, you have been happy, you have shared the real authentic things. And I think that's one thing that I really love about looking at Wealthy Living Project is that you're not afraid to be who God has created you to be in your entirety. You know what I mean? People like to just highlight the good things. They just like to tell you, oh, I've lost 20 pounds, right? Okay, but sis, how did you get there?
Are you happy?
Are you happy? Like, and like I was sharing with you earlier, like me, before I gave birth to my son, I would say I was really fit, and what my definition of was really fit, really skinny, really like the little tone body, whatever. But mentally, I was not happy. I was depressed, you know, having a lifestyle where you are a $165 and you have to keep up with that $165 because you want to post a picture online, you know, that does something mentally to you. Trying to keep up with Instagram, social media, that highlight reel. And you don't do that. You keep it very authentic. You keep it very, very real. And it's honestly inspired me, especially now in the season where my health has been affected and I'm going through what I'm going through. Like, I will say, like, I don't care to keep up with social media and how people perceive me and what people think, you know, like I just care to be who God has created me to be for the people that God has created me to impact.
Exactly.
And that's what I love about the Wealthy Living Project. How has the Wealthy Living Project blessed you personally? And how has it blessed someone else that you may know of? Other than me, clearly talking about it.
I think, has it blessed me? That's actually a really interesting question. Because I didn't do it for me. Like if I had it my way, I'd be like, I'm good. One thing I learned about myself over the years is I can start. I'm not good at finishing all the way. And God's working with me on that too. Because it comes mostly from fear and being like, I'm not scared to fail. I'm actually scared to succeed. Right. And
Hold up. Say that again, because people think that fear is only associated with failure.
Yeah. I definitely feel like no one wants to fail, but my thing is though, what if I do make it? Can I hold it up? Can I sustain it? Like that's almost even scarier. And so that's why I start. Like if I was scared to fail, I wouldn't start. But I start because I know it's good. I know God put it on my heart. I know all these things. And then it's like, oh, but God, like I don't know if I have enough. I don't know if I can do it enough. Like, why am I even here? Right. And then I just like get overwhelmed and it's too much and I don't have all the right materials. I need to study more and all these different things. And I kind of fall away from it. And I actually forgot your original question, but
how has it blessed you?
Yeah. So I think it's blessed me because it's, I guess you could say it's the one thing I have to keep going back for. I can't ignore it. It's like there. It's like, oh shoot. Or I should post on my page or whatever it is. I will actually, I'll say this. In 2020, of course, the world fell apart and, not by default of just COVID, but I was just depressed and I've struggled with depression actually a majority of my life. Yeah. And I really didn't understand it. Like I was the type of person I would say like I remember being like in elementary school, my friends would be like, Elsa, what's wrong? And I wanted so badly to say it, but didn't have the words to describe it. And I would just be like, hey guys, I'm just going to be sad for 2 weeks and then I'll be good. Like that's how I made sense of it. And that wasn't good. That actually wasn't healthy, but that's just like what I understood of it. And so in 2020, I had experienced another bad, like depressive season, but 2020, of course everyone was sad, but I had, moved back home. It was like the panoramic, friendships had ended. My best friend moved to California, all these different things. And I was just really sad. Yeah. And it was like this sadness that wouldn't go away. And I was like, okay, I think I went off social media. I did a little fast because everyone does a fast when they trying to get their life together. We did Pt.1 as a church in August, and I usually fast during that time too. And I remember saying to myself, okay, God, I'll go back when I feel better. But then I just never felt better. And it was like, dang, what do I do? And in that, God was like, share. And I was like, for what? Like, I'm not good. Like, people like the story of like, I was bad and now I'm good. Like, no one wants the, hey, y'all, I'm still bad. Hey. Wow. But I promise you, I shared that. Like, it was a very deep and vulnerable post about just where I was at and just being low. And I promise you, like, I shared that and not instantly, but like, I felt this weight come off. Like, I literally, that was the beginning of the process of me, like, getting over that really, really hard season of just feeling like, God, I don't know how to talk to you anymore. I just want to be alone. I want to be isolated. Like, I just don't know what's going on. Feeling so lost in life too. And so I think if I didn't have that platform, more would I have shared that? Right. And to go with that, it was like, I shared that and it was like, okay, fine, God. Like, you know how you share when you want to hide? You're like, okay, Lord, okay, I'm supposed to. But it was like, it was like, oh, Elsa, I relate so much to you. Like, you don't even understand how deeply I feel your words, right? Or like, Elsa, you said just the words I needed. And I'm like, what? Like, this was for me just to be obedient, but it helps somebody else out, right? So it's almost like I get freedom and somebody else gets my overflow of freedom too, just in that. And I think that was like, there's been several moments like that where it's like, I'm down and because granted, like, hell doesn't just stop because he helped you one time, right? It's a continuous journey. So times where I'm like, I'm really bad, or I'm like, because I write, right? So I would share posts and just how I'm thinking and what's in my head. People just be like, Elsa, yeah, like that's exactly. And that's like what the page is for. It's for someone to see themselves in the words written or in the posts created and things like that too. So it's blessed me in that way. And I think we're talking about it too. Like, it allows people who would never reach me to see me, right? Yeah. Or it taps into like different avenues of health that I didn't even know like I needed to learn about, right? So it's definitely helped in a lot of ways. But also it's like a pillar, right? Yeah. Of like what I want Wealth of Living Project to be is like a base, what's it called? Like what do you call it? Like a foundational base for all these other ideas God's put inside of me, right? Like I had like I didn't finish that one either, but I started like an earring collection, right? So these are part of the earrings that I made, right?
Say, sis, they look good.
I didn't even finish, but that's y'all catch the theme. But like I wanted that to be in it, right? I have a writing page, right? I have a podcast that I started for that all to live under it. Now, granted, the Lord will bring me out of it, but the idea was that it could be a place for me to like tap into all my creative outlets, because sometimes I feel like, I don't know if you ever felt like you've had so many gifts and you don't know what to tap in first, last, if at all, what to leave behind, what to do now. So I wanted the project Wealth of Living Project to be about like, it's a space for just God's gifts to live, so
girl, you're just a wealth of knowledge. You're a wealth of knowledge. and you can tell that God has literally repurposed your pain, and obedience does something, not just for you, but for other people. Yeah. Because I feel like we get stuck it's especially me sometimes, I get stuck because I struggle with depression too. That's nothing new. And one of the new things that has been added to my plate was anxiety. Never in life had anxiety before until after having this second child. And it's just like, it's already sad enough that I was, struggling with the fact that I'm guilty that I did all these things in the past, but now I'm fearing the future. Like, come on, God, like, just when are you going to let up?
Pick one. Pick one struggle.
Just one struggle. But you said that God told you to share, like what we go through and the pains that we go through, the suffering that we go through does not stop God from using us. Yeah. And I think a lot of Christians and people in general, we think, because we're going through something, we just need a break. Yeah. Okay, it's time to take a break. Cut, Yeah. Stop the cameras from rolling. And it's like, no. I want to use this. Yeah. God is like, no, this is where I want to use.
Want to capture. Yeah.
And it's like, wow.
I think about the leaders that I look up to, and I used to do leadership development and teach like classes and stuff. But we always talk about, like, I created a course called The Vulnerability in Leadership, right? Because I think about the fact that, like, like the leader looks perfect, like that's cool. But the leader I admire is the person who shares their hard moments and still does the great things that I admire them for.
Ooh,
right?
That's
like,
good.
Because you know what it is? They look like me.
Yes.
Not like just physically. I see my pain in them, right? I see my bad days in them, right? I see the fact that, they don't want to get out of bed sometimes. Like they have anxiety too. They're an overthinker, but they still create. Maybe I can too, right? Like, they had a past but they still, okay. Like they still use it. Like, so I think like in anything that we do, like James says, confess to your brother and be healed. That's not jargon. Like that's reality, right? That's the point of sharing. It's like, you're not only healing somebody else, but you're probably healing yourself along the way too.
Yeah, absolutely. You are definitely healing. And you're healing me, girl. Because I tell you, baby, when I tell you, I didn't even want to do, I say this all the time. I didn't want to do this podcast. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do the book because anxiety. I'm like, God, if I'm writing about suffering, I want to do a poetry book. And I probably still will do a poetry book. Maybe not recently, not soon, but it'll happen down the line. But when he told me to write about suffering, I said, no, for what? That's not captivating. That's not something that people want to hear. Yeah. That's depressing. Like I'm tired of being that depressed friend. I'm tired of like always having an issue, always having something happen. I want to write about something that's uplifting and joy-filled and all these things. And he's like, no, it's not about what you want. It's about what I'm telling you to do because your life is not about you. It's about somebody else. It's about creating a platform, creating a space where somebody else can get their healing through you, where they can see the Jesus in you, because sometimes we're the only Jesus that people see. Yeah. And when it came to doing this, I'm just like, God, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, that's it. And he's like, okay. Yeah. And I'm like, wait.
You're gonna fight me?
No, he's not. He's not, because he asks us to do something. And the crazy thing is, God is not a forceful God. He loves us enough that he gives us the choice to choose him. And even if we don't choose him, he still chooses us. Yeah. But at the same time, wouldn't it be amazing to do what God has called you to do and be a vessel that he uses? Because whether I did this or not, his podcast was going to get done. So it was either you say yes and you do what you're doing, or you say no and I use somebody else, and then you forfeit the blessing that comes with this, which is hearing your story, hearing all the people that's been on this podcast, learning. Like, as I'm interviewing you guys, I'm like, wow, that's good. That's good. And people don't realize that our pain has purpose. It definitely has purpose. And I love that.
Yeah. And even what you said about like the idea that like, he's not going to force you, but one thing I've been thinking about recently is just the fact that like, cause I can be a complainer, and I love people.
We all are.
I love people, but people are people.
Yes, they are.
And so people disappoint you, and people like don't show up how you think they should show up. And I found myself in a season like being like, oh my gosh, God, I don't want to do this, but I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this, right? Like, I don't want to go here to. And I thought to myself, like, what if, or like God saying, do this. I'm like, God, I don't want to do it. Fine. I thought to myself, like, if I asked my friend to do something and they did it, but I had to hear them complain about it, I'd be like, you know what?
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Right. And so like in God has so much more infinite grace than I could ever have in my whole life, times 2, times 5, times 1,000. But at the same time, it's like, that's what God's hearing. So should God clap for you because you like,
wow,
okay, God, I did what you did, but you complained the whole time. You didn't have a heart. You didn't have a heart just to please me. You wanted to please yourself. Like, try to think about that. And if I think like that, it makes me shut my mouth a little bit faster.
Yeah.
But it also allows me to consider, like, sometimes we don't consider God as a friend, because if you did, you wouldn't do some of the things that you did, right? If you did, you wouldn't complain so much, right? If you did, you would just be like, you know what? I don't know about this guy, but I trust you. So, all right, let's go, right?
Yeah.
Think about your friends. They done take you to some dark alleys or whatever in the name of friendship. But we went, right? Why not the Almighty God? Who knows everything about you, who has a better plan than you ever could, right? Like, why not just have a heart to say, okay, I'll go.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah. And that's good. That makes me think of the verse, God loves a cheerful giver. Can we give our yes cheerfully?
I
struggle with that.
Oh my gosh, fine. Okay. I'm here. Fine.
I'm showing up.
Like, he's like, okay, but all right. Like really think about how it feels if someone did that to you. They showed up to your event. They showed up to your thing, and they're like, where do you want me? I'm here.
I'm here.
Like,
if I go home,
don't come.
just go home. I was better.
And we treat God like that.
Yeah, we do.
Like, so
yeah, we do.
I think even this season, I've just been like, dang God, like, I just want, like I was telling you in the car, I just want to be a true disciple of you. Like, I don't want to say I love you for how you blessed me or for what you did for me. I want to say I love you because if you did nothing else, I would still love you because of who you are and your character, because you are a father and a friend and a protector and a healer and like everything. You are everything that I could ever need. Like, that's why I give. And if you gave me nothing, I would still give. Yeah.
So, and I'm glad you said that, because people say that with such conviction, but then don't want to live out when God actually convicts them on that thing. It's like, God, if you gave me nothing,
and then you get
I'm
nothing.
content, and then you get nothing.
That's true. I do gotta be careful because God, I'm working on it, but I'm not there yet.
But seriously, and you in the car, you even said something. You said, God, can I love you? Will I still show up for you even when you're silent? Because we have seasons where God is not stroking our backs, is not patting our heads and telling us it's going to be all right. Called maturing. It's can we still love God even when we don't hear him? We know he's there. It's knowing that he's there enough. It's knowing that he's there enough. And it's just like, wow. And if I'm being honest with you, I think I'm getting there. Have I arrived? Absolutely not.
But if you thought you'd arrive, you've already got it wrong.
Oh,
the second you think you arrive, you've already lost.
Say that again.
You know what I mean? So it's like, but like even the way you connected with God, where you felt him the strongest when you maybe first got saved, it's not the same.
It's not.
Because if you think about it, like, you were married, the way that you connect with your husband, like, if it's the same that it is today, 10 years from now, it's like you haven't learned anything about him or yourself, right? So it's like, if we truly treat being with God as a relationship, that means you're always figuring out what's new about you, right? Like I used to see like I used to hear funny. I used to hear people who like were like in love, like when I was in college, and I'd be like, so sappy. I'm like, y'all talk all the time. Like, what y'all gotta say? What, like, you gonna see him later? Da, 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 da. And it's like, no, there's always something new to talk about or discuss or learn about him. People who been married for 70 years, 60 years, like, what do you love about him? That I'm always learning something new about him, right? And if we really lived with God like that, and not just like, oh, I know him. Like, I read all the Bibles in the
books in the Bible.
The books in the Bibles. I read, I know how to pray. Like, I know in the morning I'm gonna go wake up at 6. I'm gonna read. Spice it up. Spice it up.
Come on, sis.
Read at a coffee shop today, right?
Yes.
Pray while you're driving, right? Okay, you had kids and your life has changed, right? So no, you can't spend an hour, right? But like, how will you connect with someone that you love deeply, right? Like, you have to find new ways to connect with him. Like, once again, not out of obligation, but anyone that we love, we want to make time for,
Yeah.
So
I have a friend, her name is Rachel Lewis. Shout out to Rachel Lewis. She goes to Union BWI campus. Ball of fire. Love her down. Love her down. She is probably one of the most gifted evangelists I know, like, and just exhortator. She literally wrecked my life in a good way with just one statement. I remember her and I having a conversation, and she's like, "Hey sis, how are you?" And I'm just like, "Girl, it's just so much. I'm so busy. I got this, I got this, I got that going on, I got that going on." And she's like, "Okay, how's your relationship with God?" I said, "Oh, I'm just so busy. Like I just don't have the time." And she said, "You have to change your perspective." She said something as small as saying, "I'm so busy, I don't have the time," to, "You know what? Let me make the time." Something as small as that. And so we were talking, and she's like, "Well, when do you have quiet time with God?" And I said, "I don't." I said, "I'm walking the baby. I'm doing this." She said, "Okay, go for a walk with your child and God." And I said, "But Jason's going to make noise. Like, he's going to talk. He's going to do this." And so she's like, "Just trust me. Just go for a walk with your child and spend time with God. Talk to him. Listen to the birds. Do whatever you got to do." I remember going for a walk with him the next day. And to my surprise, he was actually pretty silent. Okay. I said, "Okay, God. All right." Because
Let's talk a little bit.
Okay. Any other time when I take walks with him, he's cutting up. But this time he was quiet. And then it made me realize God was like, "Bianca, I love just spending time with you, period. But if you love me so much, why don't you invite those you love to spend time with me?" And then it made me realize I need to be spending this time with my kids. So now Braden and I and Josh and Jace, we do family devotionals. That's how we spice it up. Because it's not just about me. Like you said, I'm a mom now. I'm a wife. I don't have the hour, 2 hours to just go deep down and dive. And God loves the fact that I'm incorporating other people into getting to know who he is and loving on him. And so I'm like, wow, God. So you said spice it up, literally spice it up.
Yeah.
We can't put
If
God
your
in this
friendship
box.
is stale, find your conversation topics.
And people think that your friendship with God can't get stale, because baby, it can get stale.
Like, hey, God, you want to go eat at Olive Garden? Like, no. Like, he's tired of it.
Yeah.
Stop giving him, like, it reminds me of like Cain and Abel, right?
Yeah.
Like, was Cain the one that killed his brother? Cain killed his brother, right? I think so.
Cain killed Abel.
Yeah.
Of course Cain killed Abel.
Right. But the idea behind it is like, Cain did not give the best offering, right? Oftentimes, like, now there's a difference too, though, right? If you're a new mom and you only have 5 minutes to spend with God, he honors that.
Yes, he does.
If you have an hour and you gave him your 5 because you didn't steward your time, that's on you.
Not the conviction.
I say all this because I gotta look at myself in the mirror and say the same thing, right? Like, okay, Elsa, so you gave 45 to Instagram, you gave me 15, but you started to fall asleep while you're reading my book, so you really only gave me 10, and then you were like, okay, I gotta go work. All right, I'll see you later. I still appreciate your time,
but yeah.
But you could have given me a little bit more.
A little bit more.
And he's so gracious that he loves us enough to still like honor that time.
Yes, he does.
But we have to be, they say love compels you, right? Like, I was talking to somebody earlier. I was like, I want to be accepted for all that I am, my good and my bad and my imperfections. And once I know someone fully accepts me, right? Flaws and all, that love and acceptance compels me to want to make the changes. Because I know if I never changed, you'd accept me. But because you accept me, I don't ever want to stay the same. I always want to be growing. I always want to be evolving. That goes for your partner, but so much more for God. He does accept you, but he won't leave you, right? But he also wants you to desire to want to be different, want to be better for him, So
that is, wow. I told y'all, I'm getting healing here. My eyes are sweating because this is so good. This is so good. You keep bringing up relationships, and I will say marriage in general, my marriage to Josh, I see what my husband has been saying. I feel like the season that we have been in, coming out of, has been hard because of just the iron, sharpening the iron. But that's just it. Josh is like, babe, we're in the best seasons of our life because our iron is sharpening iron. But I'm like, we're just butting heads so much. I don't understand. He's like, baby, we're getting to know each other. We're literally getting to know each other.
That's good.
And it's like, why is it when we go through God sharpening our iron, we deem it as, oh, we're going through this rough season with God, instead of looking at it like, no, we're getting to know him on a deeper level. He's getting to know us on a deeper level. And I'm just like, wow, like just the whole perspective shift from just the conversation, just you talking, it's just really convicting me right now. It's really convicting me because I am in that maturation season too. I'm just like, God, you're not going to stroke my ego a little bit. You're not going to like pat my back.
Even your husband, right? Like, oh, you're not going to just let me have my way this time? Okay, we're going to go back and forth. Usually I win by now. Okay, well, right? Like that's maturity, right? And I think it sucks, right? And it goes back to the pain conversation of trauma, right? It's like that is purposeful, right? Like the iron is sharpening iron. That is impact. It's impact. That's trauma. But what is it doing? It's creating a sharper knife that's equipped and ready for battle, right? So when the storms come in your marriage, when the storms come in your friendship, when the storms come with yourself, like you have something to stand on. It's not dull, because you were too scared to sharpen. You were too scared of the tension. You were too scared of the pain.
Elsa, you were talking.
You know what I mean? So I think even in that, it's like when I look back on every hard season that I've ever had, it's always made me better. Yeah, I hated it. Yeah, I was like, okay, God, I'm tired. I can actually have a pretty high pain tolerance, right? But it doesn't feel good to suffer. Yeah. Right. But it's purposeful, right? Yeah. Like even in that season in 2020, the scripture God took me to was like, I always forget. I think it's 2 Corinthians or 1 Corinthians, something like that. But, you know, I prayed for the Lord to remove the storm from my side, but he didn't. Right. Or whatever. I'm butchering it right now. I wish I had my Bible. It's over there. But, you know, I prayed for the Lord to remove the storm from my side, but he didn't. Right. For my strength is made perfect. My weakness is made perfect. Well, you know what I'm trying to say.
Strength is made perfect. His strength is made perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. I didn't look up the verse, but I want to get it right. Oh, I love that verse.
I'm actually studying that now. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. I'm literally studying. That's literally a passage in my book that I wrote, and I can actually let you know what that verse is.
Please do, because child, hold on, not gonna butcher the Lord's word on my behalf.
It's right here.
I think it's 1 Corinthians 7.
2 Corinthians 12, 7b.
Well, I think there's a 7 in there somewhere. So
yes, it is. And Paul pleaded with God 3 times to remove the thorn from his side.
Yeah. The thorn that the devil placed to torment him.
Yes, he allowed. I'm so happy that you said this, because that's confirmation. God has literally been placing. He has placed that verse, those verses in my life currently, and I just want to read a little passage from my book, because give us just a little passage. So I wrote, asking for a life that I have peace of mind without struggle is like asking to gain the whole world but forfeit my soul. What is life without the King of Kings and Lord of Lords? God is not a mean father who wants me to feel stuck, trapped even. He doesn't want me to not have the things that my heart desires. He wants me to seek him first. Seeking him first means that in a season where I am waiting for those desires to be fulfilled, I am not complaining. Instead, I am shifting my perspective. Every day that I can wake up, I have the privilege of asking God for something. The answer is sufficient grace. But the beauty is that I get to talk with the Lord every day. I get to come to his throne of grace and be bold in asking for his help. He gives me just enough mercy, strength, and grace to get through the day, so that if his will is to allow me to see another day, I can choose to run back to the Father a little bit bolder, a little more confident, and reassured of the grace that he gives when I ask for help. God didn't remove the thorn. Instead, he birthed the rose that was able to showcase beauty in spite of it.
That's good.
Yes, girl. Good. Like, it's so funny because, and I'm glad you brought this verse up, because when I was studying this verse, and I actually have a book called The Theology Book, made by the Grace Company, and it's really, really good. It's really informative because I know for me, I used to just take verses and be like, I like that one today. Let me just and apply it and make a little post. But it's like, nah, girl, we old now. We gotta get context. We need to know who the audience was, what the purpose behind it, who was the author. Okay, we need to actually know the story behind the verse. And so when I was studying this verse, I was like, God, I went through 10 years of getting high, 10 years of smoking, 10 years of all these things. Why did I go through all of that? And he's literally like, Bianca, because you tried to remove a thorn that I allowed the enemy to give you so that you can experience my grace, so that my power can rest on you. It wasn't until Paul was able to not only have this thorn in his side, but ask God to remove it for him to actually get the grace, that the power that rested on him through God's strength. And so I was like, wow. So all those years I was doping to cope, I was literally forfeiting my strength. I was forfeiting the fact that God actually allowed this thorn to bring me closer to him, not just to experience grace, but to experience his power.
Thank you for watching part 1 of this episode. If you can't get enough of our content and want more, like, share, and subscribe to the channel.